Welcome. You're listening to the Breaking the Cycle of Gang Violence podcast with your host, Jessica Harrington from 23 ABC, and myself, Corporal Jose Madrigal from the Delano Police Department. During this podcast, we will discuss in depth the cycle of gang violence in our community with the hopes of coming up with possible solutions. For the next 8 weeks, we will attempt to give you different perspectives of how gang violence affects the lives of many people. So full disclosure, before we begin, the world of podcasts is new to us here at the Delano Police Department. So we had to bring in the big guns. The Delano Police Department has partnered up with 23 ABCs, and I'm pleased to introduce our host for this podcast, the wonderfully talented Jessica Harrington. Jessica, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so for those of you that don't know, Jessica Harrington is 23 ABC's evening anchor and investigative reporter. She has been working in Kern County since 2015, covering natural disasters, presidential elections, public official wrongdoings, 5K races, pet adoptions, and everything in between. During the week, you can catch her anchoring at 5, 6, 7, and 11 p.m. newscast on 23 ABC. Jessica, again, thank you for being here. I think we spoke, maybe it was about 2-3 weeks ago when I pitched this idea to you. And almost immediately you were on board and stated you wanted to participate and you're all in. Why is this an important topic for you?
I think anytime we can bring more attention to affecting change in our communities, that is important. That's part of what my job is, right? To bring knowledge, affect change, tell stories that aren't being told. And when you described what you wanted to do in this podcast, I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to continue to do that and make Kern County better.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you again for being here. We're honored and we're blessed for you to be here. So now we're going to introduce our first guest. Our first guest is Mike Salazar. How you doing, Mike?
Good.
All right. After many years of living in a downward spiral, wasting his life in California youth institutions and state prisons, a criminal gang member, and a heroin addict, Mike Salazar made a quality decision that changed his life and helped him pull out of this tailspin. Today, he is senior pastor of Set Free Ministries in Bakersfield, California, and the author of his autobiography titled Steak and Cherry Pie. Mike, once again, thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. Yeah.
Mike, tell us why this topic is so important to you.
Well, it's anything that deals with gangs and drugs is always, the gang issue is close to my heart. My life's work has always been, for the last over 30 years, is to reach, the young guys, the young kids, not only them, the adults too, but I mean, really the kids, and try to turn their life around. I mean, there might be something said, something that I could share that might make them think and maybe make a quality decision for us in a good way. Because I know the decisions I made when I was their age. I mean, it was like the ripple effect. Just one decision caused the rest of my years. And so I try to impact these kids like that.
All right. Well, thanks, Mike. So now I'm going to turn it over to Jessica, and he's all yours.
Perfect. I want to dive right in, and I want to get straight to your childhood and your upbringing, because I think sometimes that could be where this starts. So what was your childhood like? What was your household like?
I grew up in Bakersfield, and by the Union Cemetery, there was a barrio. It's called a barrio. And so when we were kids, my childhood consisted of poverty, typical in that neighborhood right there. Father is missing. I didn't have any advice, no correction, no guidance. My mom, decent woman, and she passed away already, but she tried to help me, but I was too overpowering, on that. And so, there was no, in Spanish called no cariños in the house. There was no love and affection. My family was cold. They were frios. They didn't show that. There was no, like my wife's tell me, because you're not very demonstrative. I go, I had to look that word up because what do you mean? So, you know, you don't demonstrate, you know, because you're still cold. It was taking me years and years and years to try to, you know, I had to consciously try and be more demonstrative like that for my children and my wife and things like that. But I grew up like that, kind of cold. And, you know, I had no guidance. I had no anything. And so I developed, and then I started getting arrested at a young age, and then getting sent away. And so you get colder, you know, you get real cold. I mean, there's no emotion whatsoever in there. So, I mean, but I guess you could say that my family was, we would be the first ones to be called a dysfunctional family. You know,
what does that mean to you?
that means not functioning correctly. I mean, it was like, I'll give you a little story. So I'm 22 years old, right? Right around this time with this book. I mean, the picture. But so I'm in a Chino Guidance Center, and they give you a battery of tests. I'm going to prison first time, and so they give you a bunch of tests, questions, and to see if you're, you know, if you're a nut or if you're, I didn't say that politically correct, right? So anyway, but if you're, you know, insane or you don't think straight, whatever, you know, and then about your family, about everything. It was about everything. So I answered all the questions. About a week later, he calls me in. He goes, Mr. Salazar, did you answer those questions honestly about your family and all? I go, yeah, sure, yeah. I said, why not? It's true. And he goes, that's not normal. That was the first time, 22 years old, 23 years old, that I heard that I didn't really lead a normal life. But my thought was, well, what's normal? For what was normal for us in the neighborhood, in the barrio right there? What was normal was the way we lived. That was normal. You know, all our families, everybody's family was dysfunctional. You know, my neighbors, you know, they had 15 kids, and you know, the mother was, you know, the dad, they were drunks, and you know, it was just, you know, it was my dad wasn't around. He, you know, it just was dysfunctional. And so, I mean, that's the way you grow up. You don't think, but you don't know when you're young. You don't know if you're in poverty. You don't know you're dysfunctional. You're just living. You know, just that's it. You have no control over who your parents are, how they treated you. You had no control over all that. So. But you know, that was my childhood in a nutshell. And
so when, if you can remember, was the first time you were exposed to gangs or gang violence?
Well, we were all kids, right? I was like 12 years old, about 12, junior high. And so, I mean, but we all kind of grew up together. And so, and we were all in the same boat. You know, we're all didn't have no love at the house, and you know, we did what we wanted, and so we naturally banded together, and we created our own little gang, you know. And so, but it was start out. I was usually the youngest one in the group, you know. You always hung around with older guys, but you know, you started drinking and you know, getting high and this and that, and forming a gang, and so you start committing crimes, a little bit of crimes, and there he goes, and then you're involved with. It just started progressing, but I made a decision though to get in the gang.
Before you get to that, how were you exposed to the trouble and the drugs? Was it because you were hanging out with older men, or was it in the neighborhood?
What I mean by older was I'm 12, they're 14, 15, 16, you know, or a little older, but not that much older, but they were a little bit more experienced, and I didn't have, you know, so I was a follower. So, I mean, I didn't know, I was easily influenced, a follower. I mean, I just, you know, so, but my exposure was, you know, as we were getting together, we would go to a party, right? And so there'd be guys from another neighborhood, you know, at the same party, and then here we go. You know, somebody started a little fight, and then it was, you know, that's the way he started. And then after a while, you know, you got your little gang, and so if they're going to fight it, this is back in those days. They don't do it like that no more. But they would say, okay, let's go fight at the park. And so they would. So what's the rules? No weapons, just fists. Okay, so then we go in there and just fight, right? But I'd say, well, weapons. Well, then you'd have chain and gun. But there wasn't hardly any guns. Not like today. Everybody has a gun. So, but that's how I started getting involved with the gang and the violence, little by little, and that was the beginning.
Do you feel like it was easier for you to get involved in that, either A, because you didn't have a father figure in your life? Did you have siblings?
No, I was the only child. Yeah, I had an older sister I didn't really know her that well, but yeah, so I was, I just basically was the only kid, so, and we all lived in the barrio right there in the alley. And all my family lived in the alley. My grandmother lived in this house, and across the alley, the alleyway, my grandfather lived in the other house because they couldn't stand each other. So he had to live by himself. And it was, oh man, it was funny. And then all he'd do is yell, just like my dad. And then my mother told me, go over there and get some sugar or something. Oh man, I don't want to go over there, because she'd go knock on the door, he was just one of them guys. But yeah.
So was it partially just something to do, to be with your friends and something to do, something fun to do? As far as drugs and fighting and things like that.
Yeah, once, it was like, you start hanging around with your friends, and as you're getting a little older, right, you're like 12. To me, it was 12, 13, 14, right in there. That's when I started going to parties and staying out late till like 1 o'clock in the morning, and like things like that. And so naturally, when you're together like that, you're gonna do something. You're gonna commit a crime. You're gonna be it's called malicious mischief or vandalism or something, because you're gonna do something. And then or you go start a fight. Like you go into another neighborhood and you put your name over there in their neighborhood. Well, that's just starting a fight. And then it was like that. And I remember at one time my mother would ask me, can you go to the store? It's getting dark. Can you go to the store? It was just down the street, and get something. I said, hey, sure, Mom. And then I'd sneak out. She didn't know. See, my mom didn't know. She didn't know I was involved in all that.
She didn't know you were out late either?
No, she knew.
Oh.
But there was nothing she could do. There was nothing she could do. I mean, she would come looking for me, and that's a sad part. My friends' mothers, they hated me, man. They go, man, your mother come over here looking for you in a taxi, because my dad wasn't around. She didn't drive, so she would go in a taxi, and oh man, it was just, but you don't think of those things when you're a kid. You don't think of what you're putting your mom and everybody through, but that's the way it was. And so, but yeah, I wasn't exposed to that, to the gang style, because it was a style. I saw the way in the 60s. This is 1962, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. So we were like the ones that started they call them cholos now, but it's like we just call them chucos. So in other words, they wore the khakis, the tank top, t-shirt, and a Pendleton, right? Or a derby sometimes, or like that. We were the first little gang in the whole Bakersfield shaved our heads. Like we were kids. But it just evolved into that, and so we weren't a big gang, but we were, we did everything that what a gang does. And so, and then you start getting, committing crimes, and yeah.
Right. So let's talk about that. I know you mentioned your first arrest, but can you take me through that? What sort of crimes had you been committing, and how long was it before you got caught? And then once you got caught.
Well, when you're, that's my cousin. My cousin taught me how to steal. So I learned how to steal early, because we were poor. Like I wanted to read. You know how I learned how to read? Good. I'm a good reader. Through comic books. So we would steal the comic books at Metropole Liquor Store. He taught me how to steal them, and I would steal them, right? And I take them home and I read them, and that's how I got proficient at reading. To be honest with you, and then so we were doing all these little things already. We're already in that frame of mind, stealing and we'd steal hubcaps and just to steal something, we would steal the caps off the air tires when they would go play baseball. I mean, we were just, we were out of control, but, we were just doing it. And so they were breaking windows or the lights and nothing really major yet, but that's the way it evolved into the next stage, so.
And so talk to me about the first time you were arrested.
First time I was arrested was for malicious mischief. I was 12 years old, and it was for knocking down gravestones. Well, we lived next to the cemetery, so naturally we used to play there. I mean, we lived in that cemetery. But we knocked them down. I was not 12. We were drunk a little bit, and so I forgot how we got arrested. I don't remember. I know there was 4 of us that got arrested. And just a note, but later on in life, right, when we were right here in this CRC, California Rehabilitation Center, that same kid, right, he got killed right there on that yard.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but you never know, what's going to come. But that was the first one. That was the first time. And then after that, you go to juvenile, and then you only stay there a day or two, then they release you. And then it was starting to be, that's what started. And once you lose your fear of being locked up, that's all she wrote.
And I was just going to ask that. Were you scared the first time you were arrested?
Naturally. Heck yeah, I was scared. If you never experienced that, no matter what, you don't tell anybody you're scared, but you're scared. Like, so when as time went on, when I went to California Youth Authority the first time, I heard every story you could think of. My cousin's already been there, and I was scared going up there. And I remember waiting to see the judge to get sentenced. And I remember I was in that cell, in that holding tank by myself. I remember I said, man, if it gives me a chance, man, I'll be the best kid in the whole world. I'll straighten up my act, man. I'll wear a backpack to go to school. I don't know, whatever it took. I was thinking like that. But it didn't happen. I got sentenced to what the law prescribes in Vámonos. And that was the end of all that, because that changed me a lot in there. That was a change. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But
not enough to keep you from going back, clearly.
What do you mean?
As far as getting in trouble again.
Oh, no. I was already, we were already, okay, so juvenile hall, that's the way it usually starts with all the kids. I see them, I go to juvenile hall and I talk to all these kids. I go, is this the first time? Nope. There's like the 10th time, 15th time. Because you start going in and out for different things. And then you lose the fear of being locked up in juvenile. And so the next thing is you get sent up for a worst crime. So you go to Camp Owens. Camp Owens is a local, that's a county camp. Almost everybody I know that went to prison went to camp from Bakersfield. Went to camp first. I met everybody over there in Camp Owens. From all my friends there. Later on later on that became friends. But we went to Camp Owens, but it didn't. I cut my fingers off in there. You would think I'm going to show you up there. I can't show you right now, but I cut them off, and it's in the book. What I did. But we had see it when we were kids. Our little gang, all the gangs in the neighborhood, the Loma, the Valle, the Colonia, the Oki, there was like 4 major ones in the west side. Everybody starts sniffing glue. Everybody. So this is like the craziest thing, right? So everybody was buying testers and Rival glue, model glue. And then you put it in a rag and then you huff it and you go way out there, but it burns your brain cells. So pretty soon your pockets are all tied up. You can't put your fingers because they're all glued up. You start having manchas all over your face and all that. And my mom still didn't, she still didn't really understand what was going on. And so I would say all kinds of different stuff, right? But when I went to Camp Owens, I think I was still brain dead from the glue, and we went to a wood shop. I'd never been in a wood shop in my life. And so the free man says, hey, all you guys that went to brand spanking, you were the first ones in there. He says, don't touch anything, I'll be right back. He was gone for 3 minutes. So when you tell somebody don't touch something, what's the first thing we do? We touch it, right? Mm-hmm. So we went over there, everybody went to a saw and checked it out. And So I turned this one on. It's called a joiner, and you smooth the wood. You push the wood through. I read this, I read the little instructions. I go, okay, yeah, okay, 1.5 feet long. I already misread it. You're supposed to have it 2.5 feet long. So this was only this. It should have been this long. So I'm pushing the wood through. It's a long blade, and it spins and it smooths the wood. So I'm pushing it through, and in the middle of the cut starts going like this. Right? So what do? I don't know. Well, I haven't followed the instructions. I mean, and sure enough, I go, you know what? I think if I just push it a little bit more, it'll smooth out. So it was a wrong move. So I pushed it and shot out of my hands, and my hand hit the blade. Oof. Yeah, cut all 3 of them. That's another story in itself.
Wow.
But anyway, you would think that would be enough,
right,
to stop me from getting in trouble.
Right, from not following directions.
No, from not following directions.
Yeah, that didn't do it.
No, it didn't do it. Mm-mm.
So let's talk about your life. Let maybe talk about your young adult life, and as far as being in gangs and what you were involved in. What sort of crimes, drugs, what were you into, and escalating into that? Okay,
we started, so, like I was saying, when I was 12, 13, it's real young, but we would stay out late and this, and pretty soon though, we started to, we broke into, we started breaking into stores, and then we broke into Rainbow Market, right there on is it Baker Street? Yeah, Baker Street. Kicked the window in, took all this stuff, went to the neighborhood. That's the first time I learned. See, I learned lessons through everything. That was the first time I learned that when you brag, right, about what you did, you're gonna get arrested. Mm-hmm. Because, that's exactly what happened. We got arrested for that. And then we did I came out of Camp Owens. Was in Camp Owens, and when I was released, me, my cousin, and Philip, we went to a dance, and there was no dance, so we got a taxi. So right there in the spur of the moment, they're older than I am. They go, hey, let's rob this guy. I go, to myself, I'm going, stupid, man, I don't know. But I didn't know how to say no, or I didn't have what it took. I don't know what it was, but I just couldn't do it. So I just went with it, right? And so we robbed a taxi cab driver. And it didn't hurt him, So anyway, it came out in the newspaper. 3 Mexican kids robbed, taxi cab driver. So about a week later, and then naturally we told everybody in the neighborhood, right, which is the worst thing to do. So about a week later, one of the guys, from there, he goes, hey Mike, can I use your? It was wintertime. So can I use your mohair sweater? It was a old kind of stylish sweater. I go, yeah, sure, a brown one. So he goes to a party, they get arrested, and the cop that was arresting him go, oh, Mexican kid with a mohair sweater, we got you now for armed robbery. You're going to youth, scared him half to death. And he said, no, that wasn't me. I'll tell you who did it. 1, 2, 3, and here they come. Here we go, California Youth Authority. This is where that's how I that's the first time I went up there.
And then what about actual going to a county jail and things like that? Oh, that's
later.
A little bit older.
Yeah, that's older when you got, because I went in and out of California Youth Authority. Right. All my teenage years, I was gone. And then, so what happened so the gang still stays together, usually, but as you're getting older, things change and all that. And you're still together, but you're not as active. Like together, you're just doing your thing out, But if something ever comes up where you have to fight or hurt somebody and all that, well, you're going to be there. So what happened with everybody is everybody started getting on drugs. That was the whole thing. Everyone got.
What kind of drugs?
Started simple, like drinking beer, smoking weed. I was introduced to pot when I was like that, about 12, 13. And so we started buying this and selling joints. And, so I started becoming a capitalist, I was selling this, and pretty soon we're selling everything as you're growing up. And so then, anything, if you're experimenting, that's what's going to happen. You're going to experiment with everything. So we started taking pills, whatever was around, and uppers, downers, all arounders. I mean, and LSD and all this, that was 1967, 68. So those are like hippie days. And so, and then naturally you're gonna get arrested. So when I started really getting arrested though was when I started using heroin. That's when I started.
And did that just come about through the experimenting?
Experimenting. Yeah, that was, I hate needles. So that's funny is, people say, well, I hate needles. I'll never use a drug like that. I said, that's what we all said.
And then were you addicted before you knew it? Were you addicted? I guess that's a fair question.
The truth, I didn't know I was addicted. I didn't know anything about addiction. I never even knew what a tecato was. A tecato was a Spanish word for a heroin addict. I met him because I started working. I got married at a young age. I got married at 18. Got my girlfriend pregnant. I married her, I just come out of youth authority the last time and I was trying to do okay. So I had a job but see, it was a minimum wage job. It was $1.65 an hour, and I had a little house and and I got to support a family, And so I started selling drugs on the side. And so, but she, so as I was selling these the drugs, it was about the money. It's always about the money. It's always about the money. And so, the guys that were my connections, they changed from pot and all that, and they said, we're going to start selling chiva. I said, chiva, what's that? I don't know. It's heroin. I says, okay, can you make any money off that? But I didn't know. They just laughed at me. They go, okay. So that's the way I started, and then, I went to San Jose and started selling there. And anyway, so make a long story short, I started fixing, and it's called, injecting. So I did it for 3 weeks. 3 weeks. I said, I don't want this no more. Forget this. And I was in San Jose, and so I said, I'm going back to Bakersfield. And I drove to, I made it as far as Los Baños, got a room. Next morning I woke up, man, I said, oh man, I got the flu, man. I'm sick, my nose running, I'm shaking, and I don't know that I'm sick. Dope sick. I get back to San Jose, and the guys that were, using with me, they were all sick too. I go, where you been at? I go, man, I think I got the flu, man. I go, man, you ain't got no flu. I said, that's my lias. It's called my lias. You're sick. You're dope sick. No, I said, yeah. So we tried a little bit, and everything symptoms went. So that right there, took me 2 years. I did 2 years straight on that. And that's what, at the end of that, that's when I started really getting arrested, going to prison. It was right there.
And you had a child at that time.
Yes.
And so were you still present in your child's life during that time?
No. What happened was I didn't get a chance to raise any of my children because of my addiction and lifestyle. And, it was sad. It was sad. I mean, but when you're in that frame of mind, I don't know, people, unless you're in it, you'll understand what I'm saying, but you're not thinking that. You're just selfish, man. You're not focused on that.
So I'm assuming then it didn't occur to you that sort of the life that you grew up without a dad around was kind of what you were mirroring.
Well, mirroring to my dad. I didn't even think about that. I was like, because everybody that was in our, that I used to hang out with, we're all in the same boat. Nobody had, either they didn't have no mom or dad or, a foster kid or, so it was common. It was normal. It was nothing like a big deal. And so that's like when the counselor told me, it's not normal what you're living. But I said, well, what's normal though? I don't know what normal is. Is normal what I watch on TV? Like Last Seat back in them days, right? Or Father Knows Best, or, white picket fence, and you come home and, your mom and your dad, they hug you and say, my son, you're going to do good. And you're such a, I didn't have all, we didn't have that stuff. And so I said, that's a fantasy right there. So most of us, we all had We had pictures. Well, I got a picture on that in that book. All of us that were little spanky in our gang. You know, we got patches on our pants. I mean, you know, because you had to use same pants. I like playing marbles, so you know, it was. Yeah, but yeah. So yeah.
So, how many times in your adult life were you arrested or in and out?
Oh.
And for what?
My
crime?
adult life?
Your adult life.
Well, I had. Besides going to jail, so when I got sent to prison, I went to California Rehabilitation Center. So that was the first prison number. You never forget the numbers. 37680 is right there, but it's right. After that, I got a B number, 79193. Then a D number, 29199. And then it was like that. 1, 2, 3. I had 3 prison numbers, and then in between there's the violations. You know, you just go do a little bit of time and you come back. You know, it's just so it was. I was like that for forever. I mean, I always had a parole officer. I mean, I did. I would call my mother in the morning because I'd be, you know, early. I'd go, Mom, hey, parole officer been over there? But no, you know. So then I go over and sneak over and eat a little bit and then take off. That was my life right there, like that.
Wow. So when was it then, or what was it that made the change for you to get out?
Well, that happened. That happened in prison. That happened in. I had an experience. What it was I was in the hole. I was in the solitary confinement, and I was in Tehachapi, and so I was a criminal. By that time, you know, I mean, I'm not talking like this is like 40 years ago, but up to that time, I mean, I was a criminal. I knew I was a criminal. I wasn't there because I was because of drugs. I was a criminal already. See, I knew that already. And so, and you know how they say, well, prisons are made for criminals. Well, prisons are made for people like me and my other friends. You know, you should lock us up, you know, if it were like that. But, I mean, I could say that now. Back then I was, oh no, I'm innocent, and you know, the whole bit. And so, so I'm in the solitary confinement, and these 2 ladies come visit me out of the clear blue sky. I didn't know them. And they pulled me out. They let me visit for half an hour because I was in the hole. And they sat me down right there. I go, who are these people, man? They go, Mike, says, the Lord told us to come visit you. I go, what? To myself, right? I'm thinking, because I wasn't religious. I never went to church. I had never went to church, never read the Bible. My mom tried to teach me a little bit, but you know, when you don't listen. And so I never experienced that. And so I'm thinking, wow, these people, they're hallelujah people or something. I didn't know what to call them. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so this is 40 years ago. So the only conversation I can remember, they say that Jesus loves you. And I said, ma'am, I said, with all due respect, I appreciate both of you coming to visit me. I said, but I don't believe in Jesus, and love's not my vocabulary. I don't know what you're talking about. What does that mean? I was just being honest with them because I didn't know what that meant. I really didn't know what that really meant. I had never loved anyone. So anyway, they take off. You know, they take off, and when I went back to the cell, about an hour, a couple hours later, I had an experience in there that was the beginning of a change. It was the beginning of a change in my life. I mean, I started seeing this is what happened real quick. I mean, do I have a couple of minutes here on that? So
yeah,
I started to see my life, all the wasted years, the wasted life, the people I hurt. I began to see this in my mind, and I couldn't stop it. It was like I had to see it. And so the more I saw, the uglier it got. And so I was like struggling inside. And I remember I yelled out, I said, man, ¿sabes qué? Si tú eres Dios, like I challenge, I said, you're God or creator or infinite intelligence, supreme being. I mean, I read all the names, you know? I mean, I read books. He goes, then do something, change my stinking life, because I don't. I said, but you got to do something like right now. And so I meant what I said. See, that's what I tell all these, I mean, this helped me. There are other ways to change, but this is the way that helped me to change. And so I meant what I said. And so, I experienced this like like cold water on your body. And anyway, so it was like jumping in a lake, cold lake. And by the time I came up to here, feeling is the dam broke, and I began to weep like a baby. I don't remember the last time I cried, because I was taught, un hombre no debe llorar. A man not supposed to cry. That's what
Right.
hey, toughen up, don't you cry. You better not cry around the guys, But man, I wept like a baby. I was sorry for everything I did and all that. And so that was the beginning of my change.
So then how did you, from that moment, from that visit, from having that experience, then you're still in prison at that point.
Right.
So how do you change? Because I've also heard that there are gangs in prisons. Were you involved in those, and how did you get out?
We were the ones that started the Sureño gangs in Bakersfield, like 1974 in Tehachapi. This is before the last time I was in there. So we're the ones that started all that. We were attached with the Mexican Mafia, all that and stuff. So, but today I could say that the guys that are still involved in all that, we're still friends. But they call me Pastor Mike now. They don't call me Big Mike. That was my nickname. And so I appreciate that. I mean, that's the change that they've seen. But it was in the prison, that when I made a conscious decision to change my life, it was in there that I said, you know what? From this day forward, I'm gonna serve God. And so that's part of that book. Is like the courage that it took to tell the gang, your homeboys, the gang, all the gang. All the gangs were out back in those days. They didn't lock them all up. They were out in the yard. So I told them all. I go, hey, I'm gonna serve God. I'm gonna be a Christian.
And they were okay with that?
No. Some of them weren't. They're not. It wasn't like oh gosh, sure. No, they didn't understand what was going on with me. So I would walk this track, right? When I first started, and I would read. I was an undercover Christian in the beginning. I would hide my little Bible in there, and then I pull it out and I read it when I'm walking this track. Like that was back and forth like that. That's so. But anyway, so I happened to read a part in there that says, if you're ashamed of me, I'll be ashamed of you. And I said, fly your colors. In other words, that's a saying in the gang life. Fly your colors, meaning like, let it be known who you stand for or who you represent. So now I had to do the same thing as like, okay, I have to represent, with my Christianity. So I think that was the hardest thing for me to do.
What sort of pushback did you get from that, though, and how did you overcome it?
Well, one guy, we were at the dip bars, I remember, and I was saying, hey, I forgot, there's some conversation that we're having, and I said something about God, and he goes, what, F your God. I said, if it lets you eat with, there was prejudice, he said, if it lets you eat with so-and-so and so-and-so, I don't want to have nothing to do with that. And so it cut me off. That was the first time it's like somebody come at me. And so I stunned me. Because he would have never done that to me. Not that I was a bad dude or nothing like that. It was just, we had respect for each other, But anyway, it was stuff like that you have to overcome.
But in my mind, when somebody says something like that to you, because now you're
fight.
so convicted, right, you want to revert back to what you know, which is defending yourself and what you believe in. So what did you do? How did
I get out of that one?
Specific situation.
You know what I did with that one? I went, I'm going to pray for you, man, that prejudiced spirit you got. All right? And he looked at me. So I did something totally contrary to my nature. And then I left. And as I'm walking that track, I realized exactly how he disrespected me, right? So I started getting angry and, furious. And then, so then right away the thoughts, because that's the way you get in there, thoughts, right away your thoughts are, stab somebody or do something, but, you can't do that anymore. So you have to that's not going to happen. So that's the part of the change, the
So
changing of the thinking.
Having some discipline in yourself.
Discipline yourself. You have to, which you never had before. So, and that happens because God helps you. I mean, I understand that, but.
So then when you get out, was it challenging once you were out?
Oh,
too?
man, it was challenging. Oh, it was, I mean, if you've never really been a law-abiding citizen, and now you have to, be a law-abiding citizen. You can't sell no drug. You can't make no money. You can't do this. You got to look for a job that's, you don't even know how to get. The only thing you're good for is a minimum paying job, and you need help. People that come out of prison, in juvenile hall too, they don't know how to function. You need help. I didn't have the help, so I went through I made a lot of mistakes, quite a few. Yeah.
And then, so how did you eventually get on a more straight and narrow path?
Well, what helped me was I got involved in church. That's what helped me. So you got to get involved in something. I was always involved. I was always in a gang. All my life, I was in a gang. I was a kids gang. I was in the Sureño gang. I was in the whatever gang. I was affiliated with the prison gangs. Everybody, my family. I got family in gangs. Just it's common stuff. But so church to me was like, hey, it's just another gang. I mean, we're just not doing the same things. We're
Right.
just doing something positive now.
It's a church gang now.
It's a church gang, so I'm in the church gang now. So, but I've always been in the gang. So, it's kind of funny because I when I think about it, I go, I'm still in the gang, man. I'm still, we're still involved in it, but not doing wrong,
Right.
just trying to do good.
It seems like to me as an outsider that you were kind of always constantly looking for that family nature, right?
Yeah.
Because you had your gang of young friends when you were little, and then that turned into, of course, crime, and then you were still kind of looking
in the
for
gang.
that, right,
Yeah.
as you go on, and then so the church was kind of the next step as you were trying to get more into a better
when
path.
when you're a kid and you join a gang, it's because there's a few reasons, but one of them is that you want to belong. You want to belong. You want to feel like you belong. And so if you don't belong in your house, with your family, if you don't have that support, that love or whatever, you're gonna find it out in the street. And the streets has a strong pull. It's a strong pull. It'll pull you. And then you get a bunch of other misfits, black sheep, put them all together, and they're all doing the same thing. So that you just band together. And so. But you want to just one of the things that I wrote a note for myself is curiosity. See, I talked to this young man in Kern Valley Prison not too long ago, and so he had tattoos on his face all over, and I had a chance to talk to him for a while. Young guy. I said, so tell me your story, bro. He goes, you know what? He goes, my mom was a nurse. My dad is an engineer. I lived in a nice house. I said, I had everything you could think that you wanted. I had the American dream. My family loved me, showed me that they loved me. All the things that you would think, man, that's good. I said, well, what happened? He goes, it's curiosity. I start seeing the guys on the other side. They look kind of cool. They dress cool, walk cool, talk cool. That's what attracted me. They dress cool, walk cool, talk cool, and so, you start going that direction. That's what he did with him. And it just bit him. Yeah.
Why do you think people don't get out of gangs?
I got a friend of mine right now that's, the Mafia. And so he's still my friend since 1974. And he's been in there on this time about 20-something years. And he's active. He's not getting out. He's going to die like that. And so I don't talk to him too much about that. I try to help him in other ways, but he goes, he says, this is my life, Mike. I go, it's too late now for me. I mean, what am I going to do now? I said, well, you could change, man. I mean, I did it. He said, yeah. I said, but I said, you got to have it. You have to want to do that, like that. I said, yeah, that's true. They have to have some kind of a desire to change. But still, that still comes from God. See, there's no way you just can't just change like that. It has to be something else. A divine intervention, that's what I call it. Mm-hmm.
Something significant.
Something.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
As far as I want to go back to the kids who get into it. What do you think could be done either individually for them or from their parents to stop them from getting into it?
Ooh. Well, the parents got to get involved in their life. They can't just let them go out. They got to know, but usually that's difficult. That's easy to say, but it's difficult. So, but one of the things that forgot who I think Chief Nevarez asked me, or was it might have been Officer Madrigal asked me about if I had one thing that the community could have done for me, what would it have been? And I thought about that, and I could tell you a couple of things. One, that would help to me, knowing, been around it for so long, being involved in it, now out of it, and watching and trying to help kids, and you got to have a place to go. You got to have a place to go that's in your neighborhood. That's a safe spot. Something where you have like some games and this, and you could do schoolwork if you're in school, or you could, you have like maybe tap into something artistic. A lot of kids they don't even know what talents they have. They don't know what they want to do. If you ask them, what do you want to do? I don't know. They don't. So you have to investigate that. Say, well, okay, well, let's see what you're good at. You know how they have like different aptitude tests and mechanical, and see if you're so you can guide these kids, because something might help. Anything, if they could grab a hold of something that they would like to do, that might help them stay out of the gang. But you have to they have to go. To me, there has to be a safe spot. Because a lot of times at home is not a safe spot. Just not. So to me, I've worked with so many kids over the years. It's sad. That I try to help them. I take them. I'll take them to Magic Mountain. I'll take them up to hiking with us and trying to pull them out of they're in the gang. They're already involved in the street gang. But I'm pulling them with us, so that maybe they could get a different perspective. And this one kid, I always remember, I worked with him for a while. I met him. We started doing dances at our church because there was a lot of killings going on in these dance halls. So we said, well, let's just do a dance with these kids, at our church building. We had a converted warehouse. And so we had a dance for these kids, and a bunch of kids came, and we would do spot checks like, hey, come here, come here. Shake you down, and no weapons, no dope. And so I met this kid, and he was kind of short, and he had a Bowie knife about this big, almost as big as him in the back. And I said, what is that right there? What do you got there? I go, man. I said, well, if you want it back, talk to me after the dance. He never did. But from that point, he started coming around. And so I started getting involved in his life. But the sad part, he go home, his two older brothers are involved in the gang. His father is in prison all the time. His mother's a prostitute, heroin addict. What do you got? Mm-hmm. So that's not safe.
Right.
That's what I'm talking about.
So having a place, got it. You also mentioned that your mom wasn't noticing some of the signs. I think you specifically talked about when you were sniffing glue.
Right.
It was very apparent that something was going on. So even though you had an excuse for everything, what would you say to those parents when they may be noticing something but don't necessarily know what's going on?
They need to talk to someone. There should be, that's why you have to develop this relationship with the police or programs or things that are out there that they could tell you. It says, oh, that sounds like it's You know, if my mom would have investigated, go, well, my son has manchas on his face, like they're getting sunk in. His pockets are full of glue. He's et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what is that? Somebody could have told her. Mm-hmm. And it's okay. Maybe she could have been proactive, and doing something. I don't know. I don't know. But that could help. In the gang, they start changing. When you're 12 years old, imagine. They're even younger now. Mm-hmm. So you get 12, 13, they start wearing khakis or start ironing their clothes a certain way. Depends. Like the Chicano gangs, the Mexican gangs, a southern gang's blue usually, and a northern gang's red. Mm-hmm. And they're changing around now a little bit, but so it's kind of like, those are signs. Those are signs. Why are you wearing all red? Is it just like that color now, or could it be that your friends are, you're getting involved in that stuff? See, you gotta know. That way. Maybe you got to get somebody that could talk to them. That's another thing. You need someone that's like in the safe houses or whatever. That's for the kids to go to. People that know about situational counseling. Like I call that situational counseling. I got a master's in situational counseling. In other words, I have an 8th grade education, right, as far as public school, but I have a master's degree in situational counseling, which is counseling through experience. You got to get people that have been there, done that, so they can tell the kids, hey, dummy, don't go that way. Go this way. This is what's going to happen to you if this happens. You like picking up a gun? Oh, I know how you feel. You feel like this. I said, but guess what's going to happen to you? Right? You could be over there. You can go to that hospital that's right there in Rancho San, I forgot the name of it. It's in LA. All the youth that have been shot and paralyzed, that's where they're at. Shot or stabbed. And I think they even have a video about that. That'd be excellent to show a kid. Mm-hmm. Go, look, this is what's going to happen, or could happen.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So my final question is, how do we break the cycle of violence from your perspective?
One of the things that, like I said, there has to be information going out to the parents, uncle, tios, ones that are involved in the kid's life. You're talking about for youth, right? For the at-risk kids. To me, at-risk kids mean like, you're not really in there yet, but you're on the edge. You're walking that, you're on the edge. You have to get them right away because the street is such an attraction. I says, and then you have the ones that are, that's prevention. Well, naturally we got to do whatever we have to do. Like I said, this would work to me. And then have somebody that's talking to them and, from different perspectives, and you never know, and finding out what they want to do, what they like to do, or if they don't know, then, find out. I mean, get involved and, kind of push them in that direction or something. Maybe that'll help them. But that's something that they need to have, something that's a class. Like, oh, here's a gang class. All right. So what does that entail? Well, hey, what is a gang? And then we start, I call them rap sessions. That's what they say back in the 70s. Let's have a rap session, but it's called reality, attitude, and progress. You'll never make progress unless you change your attitude. You'll never change your attitude unless you face reality about where you're at, what you're doing. So you have to be truthful with yourself. That's how it changes. So, you have to get through these things, to me. That's my opinion, that to break that cycle, because it's so difficult, and then you're talking about, when you're in larger communities, the gangs are huge. It's like you can't get away. You can't get away. It's like, and it depends on, thank God we live in America, but America is still, it's tough to, in Mexico, they tell you like this, is, what is it? Plomo or plata, something like that. In other words, lead or money or silver. In other words, you do what we tell you, or, you can make some money, or we kill you. There's different, it's really all messed up. Mm-hmm. But we can break it. I say we because there's no way. You got one family and she doesn't know what to do. The mom got 2 sons. What do? She has to be able to talk to somebody, and someone has to be able to somehow speak to them kids.
It's a community effort.
Yeah, especially if they don't have a dad. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, perfect. Mike, thank you so much.
All right, Mike, thank you again.
Thank you.
Again, Mike is a senior pastor at Set Free Ministries. Mike, real quick, tell us about your book and where someone can get your book.
Yeah, it's called Steak and Cherry Pie. I don't know if you can see it up there anyway, but you can buy it on Amazon Books, Google Books, online. And you can order it through there, or we have some at our church, there. And it's just, I wrote the book for the purpose of what we've been talking about, try to make an impact on these kids. Maybe they could think about it, think about it. And I've gotten letters from these kids from juvenile hall. And the reason I wrote it is working. The kids some of them are starting to think different. So that's a good thing, But yeah, that's you can get the book online. Basically, that's where we get it.
All right. Well, thank you again, Jessica. Thank you for being here again. Jessica is 23 ABC's evening anchor. I'm Corporal Jose Madrigal. Thanks for joining us on this week's Breaking the Cycle of Gang Violence, and be sure to tune in next week for our next episode. All right.
Thank you.